Hello and welcome to How Adding a Probate Niche Can Increase Your Bottom Line as a Realtor. Helping us understand probate is Jim Sullivan. He's the co-founder of AllTheLeads. Jim's personally been doing probate real estate transactions for over a decade. He started ATL in 2013. Hey Jim, welcome to the call.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it, Brett. Great to be here.
Well, there's a couple other points here on AllTheLeads. Tell us a little bit more about the company.
Absolutely. As you say, we started back in 2013. I've been in real estate as an investor and a realtor for about 45 years. And I kiddingly tell people after, I guess about 40 years, I finally had a good idea because we've been going now for about 7 years. I think you and I spoke about 5 years ago, actually, when we were relatively new. And yeah, it's going great. You know, through good times and bad, even through the pandemic, we've grown steadily every year. And right now we're helping our clients, mostly realtors, some investors, do over 1.5 billion in estimated transaction volume every year. And we get leads in every county. There's virtually nowhere in the US that we can't get probate leads. Unfortunately, people die everywhere. And if there's a courthouse there, we're able to get the leads.
Well, fantastic. So go ahead and tell us what we're going to be covering today.
Sure. We're going to cover, first of all, why is probate such a great opportunity? The driving forces are very strong. Baby boomers, Brett, over the next 30 years, and I'm one of them, but they're going to be passing on a record number of assets to their heirs. And by most estimates, it's going to be about $50 trillion in assets will be passed from the baby boomers to the next generation. What's very unique about probate, the sellers are more motivated. There's less competition. It is absolutely recession proof. In good times and bad times, people pass away and the heirs, need to liquidate those estates. And then we're going to go over the basics, what probate is and what it isn't, how the probate process works, your local probate courts and processes. And then we're going to kind of give you two options. We're going to tell you how you can gather the leads yourself manually, or we're going to tell you kind of how you can do it the easy and smart way and let us do all the heavy lifting for you.
Fantastic. So Jim, why is probate such a great opportunity?
Well, as I touched on briefly, just the sheer magnitude of it, there is so many people, baby boomers are starting to pass away, pass the property on to their heirs. The sellers are motivated, Brett. They're not necessarily always distressed. A majority of these properties are actually free and clear, which really allows them to be well priced. But typically, there'll be multiple heirs, and the siblings will get together. They need to settle the estate to divvy up the proceeds and move on with their lives. And there's less competition. When we first started this company in 2013, there was virtually no competition. And so probate has caught on a bit, partially thanks to us, I think, but it's still far less competitive than other lead sources like FSBOs and expireds. And honestly, the way we show you to do it, even if you're in the most competitive places in the country, you have very little competition. They really do it the right way. And as we said, it is recession proof, it's economy proof. So regardless what the economy's like, there are going to be probates filed every month in every market in the country. And then just as far as the basics, Brett, of we're going to go over what probate is and what probate isn't, and then we'll talk a little bit about the AllTheLeads system.
Wonderful. Okay, well, I'm sure for people who aren't in the know and for our agents who really should know about this, what is probate?
Sure, and very simply, I guess the formal definition's on the screen there, but probate is the process by which assets are transferred from a deceased person to a living one. One very common misconception, Brett, is that it's for people that don't have a will. That really is not true. Just give you a couple extreme examples of people that had to go through probate recently were Steve Jobs and Walt Disney. I mean, just because somebody's wealthy, it doesn't necessarily mean that they can avoid probate. There's two types of probate. And person dies intestate without a will, it's a little bit more lengthy procedure and the court gets involved. They appoint an administrator and the estate will be settled according to the laws of succession in the state where where the property is located. And that's basically known as intestate succession. And believe it or not, probably 25 to 30% of the people not only don't have any kind of a living trust, but they don't even have a will. But most people do have a will, 70 to 80% of the time, and that is defined as dying testate, if you die with a will. And it still has to go through probate. It doesn't avoid probate, but it's a much simpler process. There's a designated personal representative or executor who's in charge, and the court gets much less involved because the deceased wishes are being carried out by an heir that they designated.
Okay, and so maybe you can just kind of go through what the probate process is.
Sure. First of all, there's 3,143 counties in the United States, and one of the most difficult things with this is every courthouse is different. Every county has different filing systems and ways of keeping track of the probate process. But the things on the screen here are kind of the order that things happen. Typically, it's 3 to 4 months from the death. It can be sooner, but generally it'll be 3 to 4 months from the time the person dies until the family gets together, says, hey, we need to settle this. They see an attorney, they provide the will, and it's filed with the local probate court. And depending on the jurisdiction, like California, the courts get much more involved. In most of the country, the court involvement is pretty limited. The courts just make sure that the debts of the estate are paid before the assets are distributed, and they make sure that the rightful heir receives the proceeds. It can take anywhere from 3 months to a year. In most states, you can purchase a fidelity bond, which allows it to close much sooner. And that's usually provided for in the will. If you're writing up a will, make sure you designate that you would like to provide for a fidelity bond. So for a realtor and investor getting involved, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to wait a year to get paid. There are ways to speed up the process and get the deal closed even before the probate is finished. And what happens is the executor provides to the attorney a death certificate, a list of assets, a list of liabilities, and a list of the heirs. And like I said before, all the expenses have to be paid, and the executor is guided either through the will or the courts as to how and when to distribute the assets. But typically, as I said earlier, there will be several heirs, and typically the assets will be distributed among the heirs, according to the will.
Goodness, that is complicated. Well, so when is a probate not required?
Yeah, the only way, like I said before, having a will does not avoid probate. There's really only 2 main ways to avoid probate, and that is to have a revocable living trust. Everybody listening to this call, if you have assets of more than $100,000, do your family, do your children, do your heirs a favor, go set up a living trust. And less than 5% of Americans have a living trust. It's ironic. Everybody knows they're going to die, Brett, but nobody really wants to think about it or plan properly for it. With a living trust, the person designates ahead of time what he wants done with all the assets he or she wants done, and you can avoid probate. The other way, the main way, 2 other ways, if a husband and wife are joint tenants in common with the right of survivorship, then you don't need to do the probate until, the surviving spouse passes. Or if it's a small estate. Most states have an exemption, and typically it's if the entire estate is less than $100,000, then you don't need to go through probate. But a vast majority of the time, the real estate alone is worth more than that. So vast majority, better than 95% of all estates in the country do have to go through probate.
Got it. But your state may be different, so make sure you know that.
Correct.
How can people understand what their local probate is all about?
Yeah, we always recommend, we have a pretty good handle on all 50 states by now, so we do have extensive training, but um, you can actually go down to the court, visit the probate court in your, in your county and ask them to explain it to you. It might be a little bit tougher with COVID right now, or get on the phone, visit your county's website, search for probate, visit your courthouse, learn firsthand from a probate clerk, or you can network with probate attorneys in your market. We give you, I'll get into this in a minute, but we also give you all the attorney information when we provide leads. So call in a probate attorney and, develop a relationship where you refer business to him or her and they refer business back to you, and let them teach you. Not, attorneys don't generally have a small ego, Brett. If you call and say, hey, I just want to understand, you seem to really be an expert in probate, I just want to understand a little bit more about it. You'd be surprised how often they'll be willing to kind of educate you and teach you.
Oh, good to know. Good to know. So gathering probate leads, I guess we're going to get into why a realtor would be doing this, but tell us how they can do it themselves.
Sure. It's interesting, when I had this idea 7 years ago, I honestly thought by now all the courthouses nationwide would be online. There's still less than 10 to 15% of the courthouses that are online. And even if the data is available in your area online, it tends to be very sparse. All you're going to be able to get online is, the person that died, possibly their address, and possibly a probate case number. Vast majority of cases, the only way to get good, accurate, actionable data is to physically go down on a regular basis and visit your courthouse. You ask to see the probate filings, different jurisdictions, they're kept in different areas. Sometimes they'll ask you for the name of the deceased in each case, so you may have to go online first and then go down to the courthouse and make a list. Some courthouses will just let you sit there and sift through the information. One thing that's pretty universal is most courthouses will not allow recording devices. So you physically will have to go there with a pen and a paper and transcribe all the data into a usable format. And then, of course, what you typically will get is the name and address of the deceased and the probate case number. Okay, now you've got to try, and generally you'll also get the name and sometimes the address of the executor, which is the family member in charge. So now if you really want to do an effective campaign, you have to skip trace, verify the address of the personal representatives, and try to find good phone numbers, and then mail them a letter and follow up with a phone call. That's kind of the manual process of doing it yourself.
My goodness, that is a lot of work. How long can that take?
Well, it's funny, whenever I have a prospective client call, our salespeople and say, oh, I can get it myself, I always tell them, go down and do it, and then get back to me. And almost without fail, they'll end up becoming subscribers. It depends on the number of leads. Nationwide, we average around 80 probate filings per month. So if you're in a very small county that has a dozen leads, you might be able to get in and out of the courthouse in a couple hours. If you're in like Harris, Texas, that gets 700, you better pack your lunch and plan on spending a few days at the courthouse. But typically, for the average person, it's probably going to take a full day, if not longer, at the courthouse to get all the information you need to get started.
Wow, there must be a better way. Well,
funny you should ask. And honestly, that's what we've done. I'm sorry, I interrupted you. Go ahead, Brett.
No, I'd love to know, how what your system is and how you help agents collect this info.
Absolutely. We knew when we started this company that we didn't want to be a commodity or a data company. So we have really wrapped the leads in so much of a system that it really doesn't make sense to do it yourself. In virtually every courthouse in the country, we have field researchers that we send to the courthouse at least once a month. In some jurisdictions, it's every other week. We physically, usually it'll be 2 or 3 people, to pull the files, verify the data. So they will go manually transcribe all the data. They bring it back to us. We do quality control, and then we skip trace for, first of all, we double verify the addresses just to make sure that it's correct. And then we'll skip trace. We have about a dozen different databases we go through to find extremely accurate phone numbers. So typically, we'll find 3 to 5 phone numbers for the executor, and 90% of the time, the first one will be their cell phone number. We virtually are always able to get the attorney information. When 95% of the country lists the attorney name and address. Some places don't use attorneys, like Virginia, but if your state uses attorneys, we're probably going to have very accurate attorney information. We're often able to get the executor's email also. And then what we do is we take all of that, we verify the accuracy, we double check it, and then we load it into a probate specific CRM that we give you. And it's single purpose. We recommend you use it strictly for probate, because probate is really a unique lead source. You really don't, for several reasons, you really don't want to mix it with your other leads. And our CRM will allow you, as you're working your campaign, to opt people out. If you speak to someone and they've sold or they don't want to sell, you can mark do not call, do not mail, so you don't waste your time, prospecting to them again. We have 500 hours of free indexed professional training. First of all, as soon as you get any leads from us, you get access to what we call our fast track videos. There's 3 20-minute videos that walk you through the system step by step. Then we will schedule an orientation call with one of my partners, Tom. He'll walk through it again, just make sure you understand everything, make sure you understand how to use the system, the CRM, best practices. Then we'll schedule a coaching call. We have a free full-time coach, Bruce. We'll schedule a coaching call with you and Bruce. And Bruce will reach out to you on a monthly basis just to make sure you're on track. We have 500, I think we have about 700 hours now, actually, of free indexed professional recorded training. Every week we do a open forum mastermind call for all of our subscribers, where people come, they share successes, struggles, wins, places are getting stuck, and it's just really an open forum call we do every Thursday at 1 o'clock Eastern. And then the first Wednesday of every month, we do a free monthly probate role play call, and where we all get together and we actually practice we have 2 coaches, Bruce and Chad. They will actually practice with people making the calls. They'll be the agent, or you can be the agent. And those are really good to listen to, find places you can get stuck and practice it. We have a very user-friendly website. So you can basically go to the search bar in our website and put just about any question on there. It'll take you to excerpts from our role play calls, mastermind calls, our places in our training where you can find answers to your questions. We have about 15 templated proven letters that you can download and use. We'll even do the mail for you, Brett. I mean, you're welcome to use our letters. If you really want to put the system on autopilot, you can receive your leads. We will do the mail for you. We'll send you a letter from yourself, just as kind of a reminder that it's time to pick up the phone and start making the calls. If you don't want to make the calls, we'll make the calls for you. Now, we highly recommend that you do it yourself, because we really believe nobody is as effective at selling you as you are. But if you're not going to make the calls, the letters are great. But there are markets where people do get a lot of mail, especially from the We Buy House investors. So just sending out the mail, you're probably going to be lucky to get a 1 to 2% response rate. If you're willing to follow that letter up with a phone call, we recommend you do it yourself. But if you're not, we'll do it for you. You're going to get exponentially better results and a better, ROI than if you just send the mail. But we do have trained ISAs to make the calls for you if you don't want to do it. We do have a custom probate credibility WordPress website. We've got other print digital media collateral. And then once a month, we have an advanced course where you can earn your certified probate expert designation. It's a small class of 30 to 50 people. Once you take it, you can take it every month. We actually have people that have taken it 16 times now. If you're ever going to prospect attorneys, we highly recommend the probate certification course, because you'll be able to speak their language and you really understand the process inside and out. So
Wow.
like I said, we really tried to wrap it in a complete system.
Right. The website, I know we've set this up for other clients, but you set up one that uses their look and feel, and it has all the information that they need in order to attract people who have probate needs.
Exactly. We'll take their logo, their colors, their fonts, really try to make it look like an extension of their existing website. And we'll link their website to their probate site and vice versa. You don't have to have a website, but if you are in a competitive market and they're getting calls from 2 or 3 agents and the other agent is a generalist and you're a probate specialist, it really can make a big difference in your conversion rate, having your own custom probate website. And we'll do all that for you.
Right, and we also will help our clients, get all the needed graphics and layout information over. So, if you want to let Hoop Jumper take the lead on taking care of that for you, we do have that handled as well.
Wonderful. We'd love to work with you on that, Brett. Sounds good.
If you want to know more about this, they've set up a special web link, and if you just go to alltheleads.com/hoopjumper, it has all the information, and they've got some special rates there and some special offers just for Hoop Jumper members. Jim, I would like to hear, if you wouldn't mind, just a success story, a regular success story of an agent who is using this system and what they can expect to get out of that.
Yeah, we've got a guy named David Pinnell. If you just go to our website and put in David Pinnell, he's in Texas. He made a little over $800,000 just on his probate niche, last year. I'll tell you one of the best stories, and this may take a minute to tell, but what we recommend is treat this differently from your other niches. These people, they had a loss in the family, and you don't really want to go right for the jugular when you call them. You want to call and be as helpful as possible. Don't wear your realtor and your investor hat. Call and say, hey, I know it's a tough time for the family. There's so many different ways I can help you. I have investors, estate sale companies, clean out crews, contractors, probate attorneys. What do you need help with and how can I help you? But probably the most moving story, we had a gentleman in Central Florida who was a realtor and an investor. And this is about a month ago. He told the story on our mastermind call. He said he called a elderly couple, they were in their 80s in Michigan. And they said, boy, what great timing. We've got a contract in front of us that we're just about to sign. And he said, oh, well, hey, before you do that, do you mind me asking, how much are you selling the property for? And they said, well, somebody offered us $85,000 cash, and that sounds good to us. Long story short, he was an investor. He could have jumped in there and bought it, but he didn't feel like it was the right thing to do. He listed the property for $210,000 and sold it in 10 days for $220,000. So it was, and since then I mean, just since he told that story, he uses that in his, in his presentations, on his letter. But we really recommend that. Come from a place of doing the best thing for the client. And if you do that, it's just so different than the approach everybody else is taking. Everybody else is calling, I'm the greatest realtor in the world, I'll sell your house real quick, or I can pay cash for your house. Call with kind of a servant's mindset, understand it's a difficult time, and be willing to help these people. And it can be an extremely satisfying, niche. I will say one other thing that's really unusual about probate. We hear from people all the time, Brett, that say, I signed up for a month. I'll give you another real quick story. We had a gentleman sign up for a month and didn't get anything and quit. About a year later, he took his list and had his assistant call the people. He got 3 listings from a year-old set of leads. So he ended up coming back. And we hear that from people all the time. You know, they'll do their initial campaign, not get anything immediately, and then months later, they'll start to get traction. Probably half of these people are ready to do something right away, but unlike FSBOs and expireds, these leads season extremely well. So the longer you stick with it, there's going to be more and more of the people 3, 6, 9 months down the road that are kind of, you know, over the emotional part of it. And they've gone through all the personal property and they're finally ready to sell mom and dad stuff. So those are 2 pieces of advice. You know, come from a good mindset and stick with the program and be real diligent in your lead follow-up, and you'll do great.
Well, fantastic. That was a lot of information. If anybody knows about probate, you know, you have a chance here to specialize in it. You can get certificated in it. You know, you can go up and you can be helping people. And like Jim says, come from a servant's place in your heart. Jim and his staff are amazing. They love to talk about this, and they can walk you through this. I would recommend that you go take a look at alltheleads.com/hoopjumper. There will be a special offer, but you can also call them at 844-532-3369, and somebody will be there to walk you through the whole process. Thank you so much, Jim.
Hey, really appreciate it. Let's not wait another 5 years to do this again, Brett. We appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
You bet.